Hello and welcome to Action on Cars. In today's episode, I'm gonna show you why you should not spend thousands paying somebody else to do brake job on your W211 E63 AMG. There are tons of resources from E55 guys, but I couldn't find at least a video resource on YouTube for replacing brake pads and brake rotors on W211 E63 AMG, and that's what I'm gonna be showing to you today. The process is a little different between E55 and E63, and the torque values are a little different, so I decided to make this video to help you guys out. A lot of people from the AMG community have been helping me with questions along the way, so I decided to make a video to pass the knowledge along. Let's get started. For the parts, you will definitely need several ratchets. You will need 13mm socket, you will need T30 bit, you will need a long screw or bolt that's small in diameter like this for pushing the pins out. You will need some sandpaper, you will need a wire brush, torque wrench. I have a couple of them, one is digital. You will obviously need new rotors and pads. You will need a hammer, more ratcheting tools. You will definitely need 21mm short and long socket, something like this for lubricating the back of your pads to make sure that they don't squeal. Thread locker. So the first step is to jack the car up. I jacked it up and I placed the jack stand underneath the car because I do not trust my jacks, and you should also block the wheels from the car from rotating back and forth. I just use the rocks, trying to be a little bit resourceful here. Another pro tip I have for you is to use gloves. I put the vinyl gloves and then I put real gloves on top of it. Now you want to take the wheel out. By the way, I loosened the lugs prior to jacking it up. Now that the wheel is out, you can see that my old rotors are dead. There is no groove left. It's worn down pretty badly. Brake wear sensor bracket is mounted onto the caliper as well. You want to remove that with an 8mm. It should only be torqued down to 8 Newton meters. Now let's unplug the sensor. Just pull it out and it should come right out. Okay. Alright, now we will take the calipers off. You have to push these pins out. You can see there are pins holding these are your pads, and there's this bracket and pins holding the bracket, and bracket pushes the pads down. So you want to use something like this and then tap on this side where my finger is pointing slightly to drive the pin out. So you will do it for the bottom and for the top, and then there is this bolt that isn't present on E55s because E55s have 8 piston and they have 4 small calipers, 4 small pads when we have 2 large ones. So in order to take this bolt out, there's a 13mm over here. So you will need to use the 13mm socket, unbolt it a little bit, then use a hammer and lightly tap on this side to drive this out, because the dust and the rust sometimes can make it stuck in here and it might be hard to drive it out. Also on the back, you can see there are 2 cables. One is the brake line, another one is the wear sensor. You will want to slide them out of their bracket, just like this, and then secure them somewhere so that they don't get in your way when you unbolt stuff. Before taking the pads out, you want to push them out. You want to separate them. Ideally, you should get a special tool for pushing the pistons out, because you do not want to put a screwdriver between the pad and the rotor, but because these rotors are dead and shot, I don't care that much. So I'm going to be putting pliers in between, push them out. But once the pad's out, it's also not that hard pushing the pistons in with your fingers. The pliers go in between. Just make sure you are not touching your caliper, because it's super easy to scratch them or even chip them. On the driver's side, you will have to remove the plastic cover and open the lid for the brake fluid. That's because when we're going to be pushing the pistons out with our hands to take the pads out, the level of the brake fluid is gonna increase. So I'm watching it. In my case, I already did the driver's side. It did not go too high and I didn't have to use a syringe. But in your case, if it does, so you want to monitor this as you push the pistons out. You want to monitor this. If it's about to spill, you want to use just a syringe to suck some out, and then you can squirt it back in when you're done. Let's slide the pads out. Ooh, they are super dirty. All right, now it's time for giving it a bath. All right, now comes the hardest part, guys. Take a 21 millimeter, put it on the bolt on the back, doesn't matter which one, and then use a breaker bar to lose it. You'll have to put a shoulder on it because it's torquing down to 130 pound-feet of torque or 180 Newton meters. All right, guys, I finally managed to remove the caliper. You can see I hung it with a hanger. Removing the 21 millimeters on the back was a real pain in the back, in the neck, in the butt, whatever. It took me a lot of time because there is no like enough space. You know, you put the breaker, it either hits here or it hits on the ground, and there's no enough leverage to kind of like grab it and pull it up. So I kind of like extended it towards that jack and jacked one end of the breaker bar up, and that loosened the bolt and the bolts. Anyhow, now that it's loose with the calipers, with the pads removed, I'm gonna wash its insides one more time, and then we are going to be taking the rotor off. Taking the rotor off is really easy. There is just one 13 millimeter torque speed, T30 torque speed. You just like undo that, give it a little bit of a nudge, and the rotor should come right out. You can see this rotor is pretty old and worn out as well. So next you want to clean this area, the hub, and this like wire brush and very fine sandpaper. The new rotor is in. You can see it's a nice 2-piece OEM rotor. It's really awesome. There's some coating over here which will go away on the first braking. One tip, when lifting these rotors, they're heavy, make sure you lift them equally from both sides. Never grab them by this second piece or anything. You do not want to put any strain on this little bracket holding the two pieces together because you can deform it. That may not be good. So now we are putting this T30 back, we will be torquing down to 10 Newton meters, and that should be it. Next comes reinstallation of the calipers, and each bolt needs to be torqued down to 180 Newton meters. You make sure you grease the back of the pads a little bit, not too much, with anti-squeal paste, and also the tracks that the sides of the pads sit in.